YouTube, what's up? Trashy here, and today we are going to take a look at Tiny Glade. Tiny Glade is an adorable diorama building game available on Steam, made by a two-person dev team called Pencilite, and I have previously described this game as the Bob Ross of games. There's no such thing as mistakes, only happy accidents. There's nothing to unlock, nothing to manage, only relaxing building and cute little sheep. You can spend hours designing your ideal village or castle and then explore it from the sky or even walking around using this game's amazing camera mode. This is a super easy to get into game, but some of the controls can be a little bit finicky, and a couple of friends of mine have asked me to do a tutorial for beginners, so that's exactly what we're going to do. In today's video, we are going to take a look at all of the different tools available in Tiny Glade and what you can do with them. So let's jump right into it. Whenever you start a new build, you can choose the season or aesthetic that you would prefer, but don't worry because you can change this at any point down the line. You can also choose the daily theme, which, as the name suggests, changes every day, and it gives you a sort of idea that you can start with and a theme to work with. However, if you choose one of the other versions, you will still get something to start with. You can either build onto this structure or you can get rid of it entirely by either deleting it with the hammer tool, which you will find down here, or by using these arrows here. This arrow deletes things, you can click it as many times as you need, and this one is the redo button, so you can redo everything that you've undone. You can also hold down the Z key on your keyboard, which will very quickly redo everything, or undo, sorry. And then you can hold down the X key to redo it again. This can be incredibly useful if you start a build and it has some sort of intricate pre-build that the devs have made already. You can see exactly how they've built it and you can get ideas for your builds. Before we get into the rest of these tabs down here, let's have a quick look at the controls. If you hold right click and move your mouse, you will turn the screen in any direction that you move your mouse and you can get a better angle to look at your builds. Take some time to get comfortable doing this while also using the W, A, S, and D keys to move around. Once you have that done and you're able to comfortably move around your build, you can then also add the zoom function. So if you use the scroll wheel to zoom in and out while you're using the direction keys, you can basically get into every single nook and cranny of your build. You can't really appreciate it with this because it's just some fencing, but definitely take your time to get used to these controls and using them all together before you start building, because it will make your life so much easier. If you've worked with any editing software or graphics stuff like, Photoshop and stuff like that, you should be familiar with most of these controls. But if not, it's worth taking a couple minutes just to get used to them. A recent update has also added an option for you to change the camera controls. So if you go to your settings and you go to controls, if you go to the second screen, you can change the rotation pivot and the zoom pivot from the center point to where your cursor is. Now, I have it set to the center point, which means that no matter where I grab the screen from, if I grab it from over here, it's still going to spin around the center of the screen, and I have the zoom set to be the same. So even if I'm over here, it will zoom into the center. Because sometimes you'll be in the middle of a build and you will have your cursor all the way over here, go to zoom into something, and you'll be like, whoa, where am I now? So yeah, definitely change that setting if it's something that's comfortable for you, because I do believe that the default setting as of right now on PC is the cursor. I think on Steam Deck, which is what this is designed to optimize, it is the center point of the screen. Now that that's out of the way, let's start with a blank canvas and have a look at the tools. So, you have 11 tools to choose from, or 11 tabs to choose from down here at the bottom of the screen, and we are going to go from the most simple, at least in my opinion, to the most complicated. First of all, we have the sun icon down here, which controls obviously the time of day and the direction of the light. You never ever have to worry about what direction you make your builds facing, because you can always change it using this wheel here. You can also have time pass normally, so you can turn on or off the passage of time so that it keeps going, and you can also change the time of day. You can make it nighttime, you can make it early morning, whatever time of day, and then you can also change the sun and then just lock it in place and get the perfect lighting for your build. Moving on, let's talk about the path icon. The path icon makes paths. It sounds simple, right? Kinda. Aside from basically being able to draw paths wherever you want in whatever way you want with this tool, and you can also increase and decrease the size of it, You can also use paths to make doors through buildings or archways through fences, but we will talk a little bit more about that later. Next, let's talk about the tree icon. Obviously, it's for placing trees. Now, the trees that you place are randomly generated. So if I click this, it's going to place, different sized trees around. You get some small ones, you get some big ones. And unless there's been an update that I am unaware of, there are actually some trees that spawn when you open a new build for the first time that cannot be spawned by the tree tool. So keep an eye out for unique looking trees at the start of your build and set them aside. You can place trees practically anywhere that you want, including, in the water, aside from atop buildings. And you can also combine trees. So if you go to the bottom of a tree, you can grab it and pull it to anywhere you want, and you can combine a bunch of trees to make yourself one big monstrosity mega tree. As far as I know, I do think there is like an object limit in the game, but as far as I know, there is no limit to the amount of trees that you can put together to make a monstrosity like this. Similar to the tree icon, the flower icon allows you to place flowers around your glade. Now, you can adjust the size of your brush just like with the pathing, and if you set it to the smallest size and you do small little dots, you can make teeny flower patches. If you click on these again, you will make larger bushes. The same goes for this. So this is a teeny patch that I placed earlier, and if I click on it again, it turns into a massive bush. You can draw with these just in the same way that you do with the pathings. They don't go over or interact with the pathing, so you can actually use this to fill in the areas. Oh, that's pretty. It's cute. It's a nice little design I accidentally made. But yeah, that's basically it for the flower tool. All of these things can be deleted using the eraser tool, but we'll talk a bit more about that later. For now, let's talk about water. Now, the water icon is pretty self-explanatory. With the water icon, you can make rivers, lakes, or even cover your entire glade in water if you want to. It has a slider to make it small, but you can also make it as big as you want and put as much water as you want in your glade. Do keep in mind that water is currently stuck at the base level of your glade, so if you do want to try and make, like, say for example, a little mountain lake, you can't. It will automatically go to the very bottom of the glade. I don't think that this is something that is planned to be added to the game in the future. It would be cool if it did, but it's fine if it doesn't. Just keep in mind that you won't be able to make any sort of mountain lake or waterfall. Speaking of mountains, let's talk about the terraform icon. So this icon does not have a slider, it is one size fits all, and basically you can use it to terraform the landscape to your needs. So if I go over here, you can draw with it the same way as you can draw with the other tools. However, this one is a bit trickier, so you can raise it up and down by moving your mouse up and down, and then you can make it more inclined or steeper by moving your mouse to the left and to the right. Now, this is as tall as it can go, but say you have a level that is this tall and you wanted to make half of it taller again, what you do is you hold the left control button and it turns snapping off, so it allows you to place more inclines on top of your inclines, and then that becomes its own separate section. You can't lower it again. If you have placed an incline and you want to get rid of a section of it, unfortunately, you are going to have to lower the entire thing. It is a little bit finicky, but yeah, once you get the hang of it, it's pretty easy to use. You can use this tool to create inclines in cities or towns, or for making landscapes with a whole lot of personality. Now, let's get to the actual building. You'll notice that when you hover over the building icon, you will get 4 different icons. You have the tower, the normal rectangular building, walls, and fences. Now let's place one of each of these. Doesn't really matter where we place them. You can draw with walls and fences just like with the pathing tool, even if your drawing isn't that good. So, before we actually start getting into what each of these do, what you're going to want to learn to do is simply right-click on the structure to see all of the different parts that you can move and adjust. So this works for towers, this works for houses, this works for walls, and it works for fences. If you want to get out of this detailed view, you just right-click outside on the grass to get out of it, but we are going to be using it for most of this tutorial. Don't forget, and this is where this comes into incredible use, don't forget that you can rotate the camera by holding right click, you can zoom in and out, and you can move around with the W, A, S, and D keys. So you can use this to get very quick looks around your buildings. I do believe that you can adjust the speed of the camera turning in your settings too, so definitely have a look at that and find something that's comfortable for you. But combining these three things makes life so much easier when you're trying to get a close look at your builds. All right, so let's start with the tower. When you right click on the tower, you will see a bunch of different symbols pop up. Now, you can adjust the height of the tower by pulling on the top of this. I really love that the roof animation looks like it's like falling. I love that so much. Whee! And then you can adjust the bottom of the tower by raising it up on stilts. Now this is the maximum height, I believe. Let's see how tall we can make something. Pretty tall. So this is as tall as a tower will go if you wanted it to. Bring it all the way back down. And then you'll see that you can adjust the width of the tower by pulling on this circle here. You can make it that small, that big. You can adjust the height of the roof. You can make it taller. You can take the roof off entirely. And then you can use this little crosshair thingy down here to basically just move it around wherever you want to move it. It is important to note that the tower and the building, which we'll get to now in a second, both have one thing that you can only adjust when you're outside of the detailed view. So in the detailed view, you can adjust all of these things. Outside of the detailed view, you can drag the roof. So you can make the roof taller and smaller, but you can also drag it out and in. I don't believe that you can do this in this view. No, there is no option to do that here. So yeah, when you're exited out of the detailed view, you can make roofs round like that, and the same for the building. So these square buildings work the exact same way as towers, with the main difference being that you can adjust each of the four sides individually. So you can pull that out from there, etc., etc. You get the point. You can also use this curved arrow here in the corner to adjust the angle of the building and place it however you want. You will notice that buildings do have a maximum size and height that they can be. So if I expand this all the way there, same with towers, all the way there. So that's as big as you're going to be able to get one building to be. However, if you did, for whatever reason, want to make a building that is bigger than this one or taller than this one, what you can do is... Oh, an important thing that I didn't mention before, by the way, is that buildings snap together. If you don't want things to snap, hold left control, and they will not snap. You can place them wherever you want at whatever angle that you want. However, if you do want things to snap to keep everything straight and in line, you just bring it close and you let it snap into the side. It doesn't matter if it's inside the building because you can just right-click it and then move it out afterwards, and you'll know that it's at the exact same angle as this building. But if you wanted to make this building bigger, what you do is you just attach this to the side. Oh, whoopsie daisies, wrong thing. Raise it up, and there you go. You do have a little bit of a seam here on the sides, but you essentially have a bigger building. And you can do the exact same thing for a building on top. Well, don't place it inside of it because you will lose it, so just press Z to get rid of that. Attach it here so that it's at the same angle, and then bring it all the way up and make it sit on top. So just adjust the height so that it sits on top, and then do the exact same thing as you did before. Make it the same, roughly the same size as the building. Obviously, it doesn't have to be perfect. Roughly the same size as the building, and then you have made yourself a taller building, and then you can increase the height of that, and you can keep going until the maximum height limit, which we showed off with the tower. The interesting thing about buildings is that what you can do is that you can actually clip them inside of each other to make all sorts of shapes. So if I grab this and I turn it at an angle, well, that's probably not the best angle to turn it at, but I turn it like this, for example, and I just use the drag tool and I drag it in here. And then if I wanted to make, like, for whatever reason, I wanted to make this end of the building have a little point on it that is totally not even in center with the building at all. There we go. For whatever reason, you can do that. And say you wanted to also add a tower to this building. Well, that's easy. There we go. It's now shaped like a strange pencil. That is not, centered at all, but you get my point. And again, these things will snap. So they'll snap to the center of buildings. They'll snap in really weird ways sometimes. And if you don't want that to happen, just hold left control and you can move it around freely. And you can have towers jutting off from whatever building, wherever you want. If things don't exactly match the height, don't worry. Just raise this up a little bit in the ground. Nobody will notice. No one will know. How are they going to know? So aside from all of this, you can also use the palette tool to change the color of your building. So for example, if I wanted to make this brick, these are the current available colors. I am hoping that we'll get more colors, designs, and textures in the future, but we'll see. So say for example, I wanted to have this have, you know, wooden beams and things like that. You could change it from, these are the three styles that we have. We have the bricks, we have this that has extra bricks, I guess, and then we have this one with the wooden beams, which is my personal favorite, because you can then change the color of the walls. So for example, you want to have like a nice green on this, and then you can change the colors of the beams as well. If we wanted to give this a roof, that looks really bad, but bear with me for a second. This is just for the tutorial. You can also change the color of the roof. It's also worth noting that you can use the palette tool again to go in and remove the, apparently these are called merlins. I had no idea that that's what this was called, but it's called a merlin. You can remove those from the roof if you want a more flat look. And you can do the same with the wooden railings, which I really, really like these. They make for really cute balconies. And you can also change their color. They change with the wood. But yeah, you can use this tool to remove the merlins and the railings from the top. Now, we'll get into decorating the exterior of a building properly in a second, but it is worth noting, because we've already talked about paths, that you can use them to create doors on your buildings. Larger areas of paths actually create archways, so you could surround an entire building with this if you wanted to and have a completely open plan underneath your building. It's a very cute look. When it comes to the doors, it can be tricky to get the sizing right because they can be up to that big and then they start turning into archways. So play around with it. Don't be afraid to delete and redo with the Z and the X keys to find the ideal door size for you. I should also mention that you can use buildings to make platforms like these, as well as towers to make ground platforms, by making them as small as you possibly can with no roof, and you can also raise them up into the sky. You can use this to add little balconies to your buildings, like so. If I were to bring this over here, turn it a little bit, lower it, and then move it in. If you move it in far enough, it gets rid of the pillars, and you can have a little jutting out balcony up here at the top of your building. And you can do many, many different things with these. You can also add paths to the bottom of the ones touching the ground to create little stairways. Now let's talk a little bit about walls. Walls can be drawn and placed wherever you want aside from the top of buildings, although you can kind of place them inside buildings and adjust their height so that it looks like they are peeking at the top. So if you were to flatten this, it would look like that there was, you know, a wall on the top of the building. You can also use the palette tool to adjust the color and the style of your wall. So you can, the style doesn't really change much, but you can also use this tool here to make it perfectly straight, or you can have it looking more rustic and broken like this. And when drawing walls, you will notice that if you draw one wall close to another one, it automatically snaps to it. Now, if you want to prevent this from happening, you simply, like we said before, hold left control and draw your wall whatever way you want to, and it won't be tempted to snap anywhere. You can use this to draw all the way around the map if you want. One of my favorite things to do when I'm bored and I'm unsure what to build or I'm struggling with an idea is to just do this, do a little doodle like this, and then just press Z to undo it. Oh yeah, that's good. That's the good stuff right there. You can also use the path tool to add arches through walls, much in the same way that you can use the path tool to add doors to buildings. And something that I didn't mention earlier is that if you go out of, so if you're in detailed view, you can adjust the height of the wall and the height of the building. But if you go out of detailed view and you hover over the arch or the door, you can change their height. You can make incredibly cool builds with this tool. The only difference between the building and the wall is that the door in the building has to match the height of the building, so you would have to increase the height of your building to make a massive door, but it can be done. And the exact same thing can be done with arches. So you could make a massive outdoor patio, you know, because you can put your decorations in here, which we will get to here in a little bit. But yeah, definitely combine these two tools and you can make some absolutely insane looking builds. Fences work much the same way as walls in that you can adjust their height, not as much as walls though, and placing a path through them also causes a little arch to appear. You can lower and increase this much in the same way as walls, the difference being that this has two heights. So you can lower it to the main height of the fence, and then you have to lower the fence again to get it to go as low as it can go. You can do some truly cool things with these fences using paths underneath them, such as, I don't know, docks on a river, on the beach. All I can think of right now are docks, but I know that there are many other things that you can make. You could even technically use these and like stack them up beside each other and use them on the outside of a house to create paneling for a house. But I think those sorts of ideas, those sorts of things are probably best saved for an advanced guide, which I will probably make down the road. If you don't like something that you've built and you want to get rid of it entirely instead of just undoing and redoing, what you can do is use the eraser tool down here. The wall tool will allow you to create gaps in your walls, whereas the hammer tool will allow you to get rid of the entire wall as well as buildings. And of course, the rest of the tools kind of speak for themselves, but I'll show you just in case. You can use the path tool to get rid of pathing. You can use the tree tool to get rid of trees, the flower tool to get rid of flowers, and we don't have any water, well, a little bit here. You can use the water tool to get rid of water. Now, let's talk about decorating your builds. So you've created your house, you've given it a path, you've given yourself a nice little balcony, but what about decoration? If you hover over this button here, you will see that there are a bunch of different things that you can put on your house. First, you'll notice that there are 3 different types of windows. We have the rectangular window. Ignore this, we're going to talk about clutter here in a second, but we'll ignore that for now. So you have the rectangular window, the pointy window, and the teeny little square. So these 3 windows can all be combined into 3 different versions, each one bigger than the last. So for example, if you have a rectangular window like this one and you drag another one next to it, you will create a double window. If you drag a third one, you create this cute little window with a windowsill inside, and it is very adorable. The color of the tiling here will match the color of the roof if you change it. Now, if you combine the pointy windows, you get a sort of church-style cute window, which also, by the way, it will become part of the roof if you raise it. And then when it comes to this small little window here, you can also combine it 3 times. So if you combine it twice, it makes a longer slitted window. And then if you use a third one, it kind of gives it a little bit of a decoration, which is very cute. Now, all 3 of these windows can be modified using the palette tool. So if you click the palette tool and you click the window, you will see that you can change the color of the wood around this window. You can change the framing of this window also. And I do believe that you can change the framing of this window too. You can also change the color of the lights that comes out at night. So let's make this one blue, this one purple, and this one yellow. Why not? And then we'll change it to nighttime. And as you can see, you can't really notice it that well here, but as you can see, all 3 of those are emitting a different color light. You'll be able to appreciate the light differences more when we talk about the actual lights here in a second. But first, let's talk about how windows are actually doors. You can actually use windows as doors as well, even though the game does not really tell you this. You kind of have to discover it as you're playing. But if you grab a window of any size, let's make these small again, in fact. So you can only use these 2, by the way. You cannot use these slitted windows to make doors. Let's get rid of all 3 of these. And let's use just one of these. So if you place a normal window here and you drag it down, you will get yourself a door. Now, if you want to make a bigger door, you can just drag. Usually this works. Oh, it's not working because I used the wrong window. You can drag another window to it and it will act as if it's doubling up the windows. And then just like the windows, you can do this a 3rd time for a double door. Now, you can also do this by placing the window first. So placing all 3 windows first and then dragging it down. It'll become a triple door, or a double door, sorry. And then let me show you with the other one. You can do the exact same thing. So let's do it the other way with this one. So you place one window up here, another one, then you get 3, you drag it down, and you get yourself a beautiful double door. But let's say that you made yourself a door and you accidentally made it too big. Well, instead of just getting rid of the door entirely, which you can do, you can also, in the same way that you hold control to avoid snapping, you can hold control and it will give you the option to, when you hover over it, unlink a door and remove it. Now, you will still have to get rid of that door afterwards, but this is another way that you can get rid of doors and windows. Circling back to lights, you can use the lantern tool to obviously place lanterns. When you place them on the ground, you will get them on a pole, and if you place them on a platform or on a building, they will either be standing on their own or hanging off the side of the building. You can edit the color of the lamps, so you can have them be any of these 5 colors here, and you can also change the intensity of them. You can have them be low light, medium light, and also super intense light. Let's talk about these cute little flags. So you can place these on the ground, on poles like this, and you can also place them up on buildings. You can place them on the top of buildings. You can place them on these little spiky bits here. Wherever you see one of these, you can place a flag straight on it. And if you place 2 flags close enough together, they will connect. You can also rotate them by hovering over the top and just dragging and turning. And you can change the color and the symbol that they have on them. Oh, you can change the color by going to the palette tool. You can remove the link by using this button here, and you can change their symbol by just clicking them once. So if you click on them, you get a bunch of different symbols that you can use to decorate your builds. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about chimneys. So chimneys are, again, pretty straightforward. If you place one on top of your build, it will turn into a chimney. What a surprise. But an interesting thing to note about chimneys is that if you place them, there we go. If you place them on the side of your building, they will add this little extra piece of building, unless you place them close to or over an object, such as a window or a door or something that they can't block. Another interesting thing about chimneys is that if you place them close enough to a window or underneath a window or a door or anything else that can obstruct something on the building, they will turn into this tiny little steampunky kind of version of the chimney, and it is very adorable. Now let's get to the fun stuff. Clutter. There is a very, very long list of items that can spawn around your builds when you place doors or windows on them. So for example, if I were to come over here and place a window there, this spawns. And before, there was recently an update, but before this update, you used to have to just kind of click the window and hope that whatever you want spawned where you spawned? That's a new word. Hope that whatever you want spawned exactly where you want it to spawn. So now with the new update, you can, you click it and say, for example, you really, really want a chair. You want to, oh, there we go. We have a chair. So you just go back. And what you can do now is you can right click it and unlink it from where it is, drag it to wherever you want it to go, duplicate it as many times as you want, and now you have chairs that you can place wherever you want. You can turn them using the button at the top, and you can give yourself a little, well, there's some people hanging out here and they're just chilling, just having a conversation. There's nothing weird about the chairs there. Now, the great thing about this feature is that you no longer have to sit there and try and spawn in 2 wheels exactly where you want them to be for 2 hours using 1 window on the same building. I mean, I didn't do that. It wasn't me. You did that. So, if you combine all of those tools and maybe a couple of extra advanced tips and tricks that I may include in another video in the future, you can create things like this, which always loads in with, there are a couple of bugs in the game. It always loads in with that in a way that it's not supposed to be. But you can create entire towns. You can even create entire castles. Let me see where it is. I have many, many, many things. Here we go. You can create entire castles. This one needs a little bit of work because I haven't touched it since we got the light update, so I need to add more lights to it. But you can do insane things in this game. Now, last but not least, I want to take a look at the robust camera mode that comes with this game. I will probably make a more detailed video in the future about Tiny Glade's camera mode because there is honestly a lot to cover. But for now, I am going to use my recreation of Pelican Town from Stardew Valley to show off the camera. Partly because it's a large, complex build and it is great for this particular showcase, but mostly because I'm a proud mother and I want to show off my baby. When you open camera mode, you'll be greeted by a whole new row of tabs to explore. The camera controls work the exact same here for now, with the main difference being that you will focus where you left click on the screen. So if I'm, clicking around, you can see that the focus is changing to exactly where I click. And obviously you cannot interact with your builds. Now there are 4 different camera modes. You have the normal mode, you have a flying mode, you have a first person walking mode, and you have a top-down map view. For now, let's start with normal mode. Just like when you're building, you can use the sun icon to change the time of day, and of course the angle of the sun, so you can get the perfect lighting for your build whenever you need to. The palette tab here allows you to change the look of your build. It also allows you to hide trees when you zoom into buildings so that you can get good pictures of them. But more importantly, it allows you to turn your build into a sort of painting when you take a picture of it. And it also allows for this you can combine them. Sorry, let me remove that. It allows for this super interesting blank 3D model look, which is very, very cool. A small side note, there is a possibility that in the future, people much smarter than me will make a mod capable of extracting your builds in 3D for all sorts of shenanigans, such as 3D printing them. Now, as of posting this video, Tiny Glade does not have official mod support, but there is a small modding community in their official Discord that's already starting to make some very, very cool things, and there has been mention of possible official mod support much further down the line. The tab with houses on it allows you to apply different filters to your build for extra ambiance and effect. And there are a lot of filters to choose from, like a lot, and they insanely change the look of your build. The next tab allows you to adjust things like the saturation and the brightness and darkness of your build, as well as the contrast. I guess that's what this last one is. I could be wrong. You can also reset them using these buttons here. But when you play with these 2 things together, as well as the lighting, you can make for some insanely wild combinations of colors for your build. Like if we put this one on, we can, adjust the contrast depending on the filter that's on it. You can really, really play around with these. That is a lot. You can really play around with these and make some insane looking colors. Let's reset everything. Obviously, this button here in the middle allows you to take a picture of your build. And then this button here is the focus. So when you click on this, you remove or place the actual focus button on the screen. When it's removed, it's still there. You just can't see it. To place it, just click. So wherever you click on the screen is wherever the camera will focus. So if I want to focus on palms here, but I only want to focus on palms no matter where I move the camera, you can also pin it. So if you press this pin button here, it will pin there on camera. I'm going to make it even smaller. There we go. It'll only focus on Pam's trailer. Oh, wait, I unpinned it. There we go. So it's pinned. It will only focus over there. No matter where I move the camera, the focus will always be on the trailer, which is a very, very, very cool feature and allows for really, really, really cool pictures. This next button here allows you to adjust the intensity of the things that are blurred in the background, and it also allows you to add this little vignette. Is that how you say that word? I'm unsure. I could pause what I'm doing right now and go look it up, but I'm just going to go with it and hope that I'm right. And then this last button here allows you to adjust your field of view, so you can zoom all the way in and zoom all the way out. And that is about it for the normal camera mode. Let's move on to my second favorite, not quite my favorite, my second favorite camera mode, which is the flying mode. Now, it's important to note that the camera moves a lot differently in this mode. So you can hold right click and drag it as per usual. However, when you move it around, you move from side to side like you normally would, but instead of moving straight forward and straight back like on a plain surface, you move in and out when you press forward and back. So you move in like this. You're not zooming, you're just moving in. You're flying around in the air. And then you move back when you press S. So in order to move and fly around your build, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to hold right click to move your camera and then, move forward. You'll move forward in whatever direction the camera is pointing. And then you can move around with the side keys and have yourself a little fly around your build. I still have the trees off, which I feel like I should turn back on. They look a lot nicer when they're on. There we go. Now, What you can do with this is when you zoom in and out, instead of just zooming in and out, you'll actually be affecting your field of view. So if you use the scroll wheel to zoom all the way out, you will do that. And you can, it gives the impression that you're flying a lot faster when you do this. Now, if things look a little distorted, like they have a little bit of a fisheye on them, what you can do is you can use this extra setting that isn't in the normal camera mode, and you can adjust it like this. So let's remove that from the screen. And with all of those settings on, you can fly around your builds effortlessly. Also, if you want to remove the entire UI from the screen, and you can do this in any camera mode, I do believe you can change the keybind. I think the default is H, or at least that's what I set it to. So you can just press H and get rid of that, and then fly around your build with nothing on the screen to impede your views. Next, let's talk about my absolute favorite camera mode, walking mode. This is exactly what you think it is. It allows you to walk around your builds, and when I say walk, I mean footsteps and everything. You can just walk around your build. Now, this works the same way that you would expect it to. You right-click and hold the camera to drag the direction that you're walking in. So when you press forward, you walk in the direction that your camera is facing, and then you just use the direction keys to move around. You can walk around your entire build. If you make steps that are not steep enough, and the game lets you make some pretty steep steps, you can actually walk up them entirely and go onto the second level or third level or whatever level that you want of your builds. The focus feature works much the same on this. You can simply click where you want to focus. So say if I want to focus on this tree here, I can focus on the tree, or if I want to focus on the community center, I can focus on the community center. And the filters and everything else work exactly the same. When you zoom in and out, you will be zooming in and out with the field of view in the same way as the flying mode. And that makes for you can do some really cool cinematic, like if I turn off the HUD there, I can do some really cool cinematic, dolly camera kind of things. Obviously not, maybe with a better mouse wheel, because this one's kind of dying on me, but you get the point. This mode is amazing. I feel like it's very good for artists and people that are looking to get different perspectives of buildings for their art and stuff like that. And it's kind of the mode that inspired me to make Pelican Town in Stardew Valley. I'm not going to lie. I saw that this mode existed and I thought to myself, wouldn't it be cool to be able to walk around Pelican Town? And I was right. The last mode is the top-down map mode. So if you go to this mode, you will see that it is basically what it says on the tin. You don't need to use the focus tool for this. You also don't need to use the these tools, or the field of view tool can be used, but it's whoa. Oh, I just zoomed straight into the underworld. Interesting. But yeah, as I was saying, it is a top-down map view. You can adjust the field of view, but playing with it, as you can see, is a bit iffy if you zoom in too much. And you can slightly tilt this forward to see, the basics of the front of of your buildings. But oh, sorry, that was the back. But that's basically the gist of the top-down view. It is great for map makers, maybe for like D&D maps and stuff like that. It's probably super useful. And it's also really nice to see your builds from above too. And there you have it, a complete beginner's guide to Tiny Glade. By combining all of these techniques and tools, you can create anything from quaint cottages to towering castles. The possibilities are literally endless. And if any of this was helpful to you at all, please consider subscribing. I post cozy game guides, tips, and tricks, including for Stardew Valley, which, if you haven't been able to tell by now, it's more or less my favorite game. But I do plan on making a more intricate and detailed advanced Tiny Glade guide in the future, with some more advanced tips and tricks, like, for example, how I made Pam's trailer or Lewis's car, or things like, the hot air balloon next to the bookseller, things like that. So maybe I will make a video in the future about how you can make some more intricate builds. For now, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, wherever you are, in whatever time zone that you are, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!